Okay, everyone, I'm back with the TOK prescribed title number 3. How can we reconcile the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with the finite resources we have available? We need to discuss it with the reference to the natural sciences and one other area of the knowledge. So, some will say that this is the hard title. Some will say that this is okay title. Some will say that this is the kind of one that you need to avoid, right? But for me, I think this the title that goes midway. Some will find it easy, some will find it hard, okay? But in order to figure out whether you want to do this title or not, let's first discuss the keywords that we need to focus with this title, okay? So we have to focus on reconcile, relentless drive, personal knowledge, and finite resources. That's the 4 words that we need to focus with this title. And this title is saying that how can we, so let's say this, how can we, right? So the answer is already there. This is not yes or no question. The answer is yes. We have to reconcile the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with the finite resources. But how can we reconcile? That's what you need to answer. Okay? So like how much we need to reconcile, or can we reconcile, like to what extent? That's what you're going to answer. Okay. Okay, then let's discuss the knowledge framework that we're going to use for this TOK essay. Okay, so we have to use scope and methods and tools to write this essay. The reason is the scope element explores the nature and scopes of the different themes and area of knowledge, and explore how each theme or area of knowledge fits within the totality of human knowledge, and also considers the nature of the problems that each theme or area of knowledge faces and tries to address. And also, when you check the method and tools, it focuses on exploring the method, tools, practices that we use to produce knowledge, includes the building conceptual frameworks, the establishing of the traditions and practices, as well as methodologies employed by the former disciplines, includes the consideration of the cognitive and material tools that we have available to help us in the pursuit of knowledge, and how these tools have changes as a result of the technological development. So that is the reason why we have to use these 2 elements. Okay, as soon as I start discussing the factors that we can use to discuss this essay title, this will make more sense. So let's start with how to answer this question. So start with the thinking about key factors that can be used to reconcile, right? We have to focus on reconcile. So reconciles the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with finite sources in certain area of knowledge, right? Some of the key factors can be prioritization of the research areas, right, in natural science, and interdisciplinary approaches, efficient use of technology, funding and investment models, sustainability and ethical considerations, right, and cost-benefit analysis, and education and skill development. And also, it will be good to mention some concerns that raised with this question. Okay, so as I told you before, this is not a yes or no question, right? This is more about discussing how to reconcile, right? So we have to kind of differentiate the format of this TOK essay from other essays. So think about this. Reconciling the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with the finite resources requires the thoughtful management, right? I mean, we have limited amount of resources. We cannot give these resources to everyone to pursue knowledge, right? So we have to think about how to distribute these resources equally and then more in meaningful way, right? So you have to think about, like, thoughtful management of the priorities, right? Interdisciplinary collaboration and ethical considerations, right? Especially in the areas of the natural science and art, right? So that's reason another thing that I want to mention with this page is that Since this TOK essay already asks you to use the natural science, I'm asking you to choose arts as your next AOK. Okay, so I'm suggesting you to use natural science and art as your two TOKs for this essay. And each area of the knowledge presents the distinct challenges and opportunities when addressing these balances. So this is another reason why I'm asking you to choose these AOKs, right? Also, these two AOKs have a lot of examples that can be used where reconciling the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with the finite resources in certain areas of knowledge requires a balance between the ambition and practicality, right? So that's the reason why I'm asking you to choose these two AOKs. Okay, then let's talk about how to answer this question using these factors, okay? So let's say we are using the factor prioritization of the research area. So if you're doing natural science, you can talk about the impact and relevance, right? Focusing on knowledge that has the most potential for societal, technological, or scientific advancement helps direct resources to areas with a tangibly benefits, and then you can also think about the urgencies, right? In areas where knowledge is immediately needed, such as health crisis, climate changes, or technological innovation, or open tech proceedings, right? They take the more favorable in terms of the relocating the resources, right? So examples can be when we had the COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19 research was prioritized globally, resulting in the rapid vaccine developments, right? Also, think about the renewable energies that people trying to find these days, right, because of the global warming. So those are the ones that gets the prioritization in terms of the relocating the resources, right? And also when you think about the arts, the cultural impacts, like in the arts, funding is often driven by the cultural significance, right? Resources may be allocated to the projects that preserve endangered cultural expressions, foster social changes, or document historical movements. For example, governments pay prioritized funding for preserving cultural heritage over less time-sensitive artistic pursuits. Right? For example, in Canada right now, government pays a lot, or government relocated a lot of resources for the indigenous art and culture preservation, right? So those are the good examples that you can use for this TOK essay title. Okay, then let's discuss about the introduction. So in the introduction, you first want to write the interesting things about this prescribed title, right, as usual. And instead of defining the key terms in the title, identify what is required, why it is required, right? What kind of skill sets required to reconcile the relentless drive to pursue knowledge with finite resources, okay? And state your thesis statement and give the reader a roadmap. Clarify for reader how you're going to explore this essay question with the AOK you're using with natural science. You need to identify your second AOK in the introduction, and this will make it easy for the marker or the examiner to know what to look for. Okay? Okay, then let's discuss the TOK format. You can do this typical TOK essay format where you have a first AOK introduction, first AOK, claim, counterclaim, and sub-conclusion, second AOK, claim, counterclaim, sub-conclusion, and conclusion, right? However, as I told you before, this TOK title is a little bit different from other TOK title, right? So we want to use something special. So I'm suggesting to use this format. We present introduction. After that, we present our first claim. How can we method that, or the how can we reconcile the this relentless drive to personal knowledge with the finite resources. And then you present your AOK example 1, AOK example 2, and sub-conclusion. And then in the second part of the body, you represent your claim, and then you say discuss about how you can reconcile the relentless drive to personal knowledge, right? So how number two, and with the AOK number one example, AOK number two example, and sub conclusion and conclusion. So this is, I think, the better format that can make your essay stand out from other TOK essays. So then let's discuss about this how number one. How can you present your claim? Okay, so claim how number one. That's how I'm going to correct. So let's say your how number one was the role of the policy and prioritization in managing resources use. Right? So your topic sentence going to be prioritizing and policy making play a crucial role in determining how can we reconcile the relentless drive to personal knowledge with the finite resources we have available in science and art. And you're going to present your natural science example where governments and institutions often prioritize research in areas that offer the most benefits to the society, such as climate change mitigation or medical research, right? So you can use like COVID-19 or the alternate energy producing things, right? These decisions reflect the need of the direct limited resources toward the fields that have the potential for the greatest social impact. And that's why you need to show if you're using this how. And then also for the art, you need to show that public funding in the art world is often directed toward the community-based projects that enhance the social well-being, demonstrating a prioritization of the cultural projects that have the broader social reach, such as the public murals and socially engaged art practices. That's why you need to include as an example, okay? So things to think about for this how number one is that, or if you're using going similar approaches, is that the role of the policy in knowledge raises important questions about who decides which knowledge area deserve resources. These decisions often reflect underlying assumptions about the values, impact of knowledge in different areas, further complicating the reconciliation between the ambition and available resources. So also it will be good to discuss the limitation in sub-conclusion, right? Just to show your critical thinking skills. Okay. For the how number two, you if you're using something like reconciling the knowledge pursuit with the resources constraints, that let's say this is your how number two, then your topic sentence going to be reconciling the relentless pursuit of knowledge with the finite resources requires adopting the sustainable, collaborative, and ethical approaches in both science and art. That can be your topic sentence. So in natural science, you can discuss something like scientists are increasingly focusing on renewable energy research to ensure that the scientific advancement does not deplete the very resources it seeks to understand. And like so, for example, solar and the wind energy researches, for example, right, illustrating how science can innovate sustainably, right? That can be the way that you can use your natural science for this how number two. And for the art, you can also discuss something like the rise of the digital art demonstrates how artists can use technology to create impactful works without consuming physical resources, offering a more sustainable method of the article creation, right? So maybe in terms of the digital art, you can think about the AI, right? So these days, artists use a lot of AI to not to waste on the resources, right? So that's something that you can think about when you're choosing the examples. So things to think about if you're using this how is that both science and art are finding ways to adapt their practice to work within the limits of the finite resources by incorporating this sustainable practice. Knowledge producers in this field can continue to push the boundaries of human understanding without exhausting the resources needed for future generation, right? So that can be the way you can approach for this how, right? And also similar approaches can be used with the other factors that we have discussed before, okay? So that is reason why if you think about this title more in in terms of factors that can affect or result in the use of the finite resources or the allocating these finite resources in terms of the pursuing knowledge, uh, it can actually for some of you will be easier, right? Because you can see that in the examples, right? We are already talking about a lot of things that we know already. So that is reason why I'm saying this can be easy question for some of you out there. Okay, so think about this title. Okay, then let's discuss about the conclusion. So your conclusion must include a lesson, statement, position, or the insight about how we can reconcile the relentless drive to personal knowledge with the finite resources we have available in natural science and your extra AOK. And this is the more summary of the summary. So this conclusion part is more of the summary of the two sub conclusion you had, but also should include these four. Okay, so you're going to restate the thesis or the central argument, right? For this case, briefly summarize your main claim or point. In this case, how can we reconcile, right? And summarize the key points that you have found. So highlight the example or ideas you have used to support your argument, but do so concisely. Also, you want to discuss the how you can end by the expanding the significance of your argument to a large context, or offer a final thought about the final thought that reinforces its relevance, right? I think this part will be very important for this TOK essay to show your critical thinking skills that this examiner is looking for in the TOK essay. Okay, and also end with a closing statement, finish with a powerful statement or reflection that leaves the reader thinking. Okay, that's how you're going to finish your conclusion. Then finally, let's talk about the examples that you can use. So for the natural science, I think you can use something like, the CERN Large Hadron Collider, LHC. We also call about this. This is most ambitious scientific project in the history. However, it requires the immense amount of energy and funding. Very similarly, NASA's space exploration, the one that Elon Musk is doing, right? Quite a few people who has money saying that humans will soon move to the Mars and then live there. And then if the Earth is not recoverable, if the global warming is getting worse, then a lot of people are saying that we should move to the Mars and start a new life there, right? That's what some people are saying. However, if you research a little bit more about this, actually a lot of people are saying that instead of investing more resources into this NASA space exploration, especially the Mars missions, we should invest those resources into the Earth, right? Try to recover what we have damaged here, right? That's what people are saying. So do some research on this example. It's going to be very interesting example to use with this TOK title. Okay, also another example you can use with the natural science is the solar and wind power, right? Renewable energy researches provide an example of how science can be both innovative and responsible in addressing the finite resources. And also another thing is the CRISPR technology, genomic research. So a gene editing technology has the potential to revolutionize medicine and agriculture and environmental science, right? So CRISPR technology can be a good example to use with the natural science, right? Do more research on it and try to find more interesting examples, right? Don't limit yourself to the examples that I'm giving you, right? Another good example that you can use with the arts is the area of the art is the crystal and gene clouds environmental installations, right? It raises question about the consumption of the resources for the artistic purposes. And another thing that you can think about is the Leonardo da Vinci's anatomical drawings, and it demonstrates a relentless drive for knowledge through both observation and imagination. So this can be a good example to use. Also, you can discuss or use something like digital art. So for this case, I'm suggesting something like people's digital work. People, this guy is very interesting person. You should research a little bit more about it if you want to know him. Because of this guy's digital work, we know that digital art represents a solution to the finite resources challenging, raising questions about whether technology can offer more sustainable avenues for artistic knowledge. And another thing is the Bansky's graffiti, okay, street art and graffiti. And then examples that you can use is Bansky, right? Bansky is the most famous artist these days regard this area, right? Uh, his work shows how impactful art can be created with very few resources, and his works frequently comment on the environmental and social issues, making his art a vehicle for knowledge and awareness. So those are the things that you can think about when you're choosing the examples for the AOKs like art.